Okay, so yesterday we covered lots of things about polygons. Okay, so right now we have enough knowledge to start building our model. Okay, so we have the cylinder here. Now, of course, it's really short. The thickness is fine, but it's really short. So what I'll do is you can either come over here and increase the height from here, or you can scale it up in the y-axis. Make sure to select this and then scale it. If you have the little box, the little blue box clicked, then of course the scaling will be done uniformly. But we want to scale it vertically, right? In translate Y. So we will select this and we will move it up. Okay. So trying to cover the whole thing. Okay, so now it's covering the whole thing, but how do we start shaping it? First of all, we need to look at this shape. See, from the bottom till here, it is really straight. The main changes start happening from here. So what we'll do, we'll add an edge loop here, which will maintain the straightness of the bottle. Okay. So I will take multi-cut from here, from the shelf, press Control and just drop an edge right over here. Okay. So we've got an edge here. Now at the top, mostly the overall shape is like a triangle. Like if you were to draw on it, you will, like roughly if you were to draw on it, it will be like a triangle, right? So what we have to do is we will go to vertices, okay? Right click and go to vertices, select all of these, and we want to scale this down to the thickness of the cap. So very important to have this in the the second viewport should be from the top so that you can see what you're doing. And now you come over here, press scale, and we will take this little blue box because we want to scale it uniformly. If we don't do that and we start scaling it like this, you can see we'll end up with a deformed model. We obviously don't want this. We want it to be circular. So we will scale it down like this. Okay. So that is done. Now, very roughly, we have got a bottle shape. It's not correct at all, of course. We need lots of details right now, but it is kind of looking like a bottle. Now let's zoom in and start adding more details. You can see constantly this bottle's shape is changing. If I hide this, now let's say like we're working on this viewport, right? And we want to hide it. Like you, if you press Control plus H, it will be hidden in both the viewports because you completely turn off the visibility. But what we can do is we can press Alt plus 2 while we're working here. You can see if I press Alt plus 2 on the keyboard, it's only hidden here. In the second viewport, it's visible. Basically, what we're doing, if I go to the show panel, you can see we have this option of polygons. You can also hide it directly from here and then unhide it. So I'm just using the shortcut for that. There is one more thing we can do. So before we go forward, let's discuss a little bit about this area. So this is our layers panel. This layer panel allows us to divide whatever objects we have and to control their visibility. Okay. 1 second. A student is having trouble joining the link. Okay. Yeah, so we have the display panel here, and it's written layers, but we don't have anything right now. That's because by default layers are completely off. Yes, kind of like Photoshop, similar to that. So we need to create a layer. So you can see all of these little icons. So if you hover over this little one and focus on this area, you see this area? We have MEL written. Just below this, you can see this is our info dialog box. Okay. So if I hover over it, you can see it's written, create a new layer and assign selected objects. Okay. So whenever you hover over it, like it will show you what um it does. So I'm just going to click on that. And now I have a layer. Now I'm going to hover over it again, and you can see it's also showing a dialog box here. So it says create a new layer and assign selected objects. You can see this object was selected when we created the layer, right? And you can see V is written here. So V stands for visibility. So if we click on this, you can see the polygon is hidden. Of course, it will be hidden on both the viewports because basically we have put this object into a layer and we can hide and unhide it to like basically it works like this. One second, let me bring it back. So when we press Shift plus H, sorry, Control plus H to hide and Shift plus H to unhide, we're doing the same thing, but instead of using the shortcuts, you can just put it into a layer and easily hide and unhide. This is good because you can divide all the objects, all your reference images separately. Okay, so this comes in handy. I'll talk about more of the little boxes here, but before that, let's cover the second one. So you can see the second one says create a new layer. This one doesn't say that it will involve the selected object. That means it will create an empty layer for us. So I'll click on that. So we have this layer 2 right now. And if I click on the V, you can see nothing is happening. Why? Because this layer is empty. We created just a simple new layer. This first option was that selected object will be assigned to that layer. So that's why when we created this layer, it already had the selected object. The second one was not that option. It was just for a new layer. So therefore it's empty. So what I'll do is I'll click on this image plane, okay, our image plane, and I'll come over here at the second layer, right click on it, and you will see some options here. It says add selected objects. So when you create a layer, this is how you add objects to the layer. You have to make sure to select your object, come to that layer, right click and click on add selected objects. So I'll click on that. Now our image plane is inside this layer. So how do we test it out? We can just turn V on and off. V is for visibility, and now you can see it's working. Okay. Now we can rename these also. I can double click on this and the options will open up. And I'll just type ref over here. Now there's one thing that you have to understand. The names you have in the outliner and the names you give in the layer system should not be the same. It will not allow you to name it like that. Okay. The name should be slightly different. So I'm just naming it as ref and I will save it. So that's done. This one is for our bottle. So I'll just name it as bottle and that is also done. So now both our layers are having uh, the objects. Okay. Now let's see this layer, the bottle one. So we've already seen the visibility option. Now you can see this last box. This is empty right now. Okay. When it's empty, when it's not on, the layer behaves normally. Okay. But if I click on it once, you will see T is written on it. So T stands for template mode. Okay. So what template mode does is you will just see the wireframe of your object and you won't be able to select it. Okay. So we use this while we're rigging characters. You can also use it while modeling. For some reason, you want to uh, turn off your meshes and you don't want to select them also, then you can put them into a layer and turn on the template mode. Okay. So that is one mode. And now I'll click on this again. Now you can see R is written on it and our object is visible again. So this is a reference mode. So in reference mode, your object is clearly visible, but you cannot select it. Okay, so this is good for references. We will be doing this for our image plane. Because what happens when we're modeling accidentally, it's possible that you end up selecting your image plane, which will cause issues. So this is why we want to put it into a layer and we will set it to reference mode. So we won't be able to select it. Okay. I use this bottle model so that everything is clear. Like you will be able to understand properly how the layers actually work. So I will click on this again. You can see we're back to our basic mode where it's visible. We can select it. I'll click on it once. Now we have the template mode. Only wireframe is visible and we cannot select it. And in reference mode, smooth shade is visible, but we cannot select it. So I'll just set it back to normal. Okay. Now there is one more mode we have. You can see this P is written on it. So this is for playback. Now what it does, I will show you in a minute. Let's discuss this area here. So this is known as a time slider. Okay. This time slider is used when you want to animate something. Okay. This is where we lock up all the values for animation. And like this is giving us frames, number of frames. So whatever videos you see, they're just a collection of images. Okay. So how many images you see in 1 second tells us about the frame rate. So if we're seeing 12 images in 1 second, that means it's a 12 FPS video. If we're seeing 24 images, it is a 24 FPS video. Okay. So, so just like that, we have all the frame numbers here. And we have this play button here. If I click on play, you can see frames are changing. So it is playing, but nothing is happening here. Why? Because there's no animation, right? We're modeling right now. So this option, this P option is specifically there for animation. So when we're animating a character, we can see the body of the character, and along with that, we see the controllers. Okay. So when we're animating, we're making our poses, we're locking the keys. Locking the keys means you create a pose and you ask Maya to remember that value so that it can remember it and it can play it for you. Okay. So that is what a key is. So I will show you what it is if you want to see. But yeah, basically, that's how we animate. Okay. So we have controllers visible as well. So animators don't want to see controllers all the time when they play the animation. They just want to see the object. So there are ways to hide the controllers. Usually controllers are made up of NURBS curves. We have this curves menu here. It will also be covered in the course. So yeah, so the controllers are made up of these objects. They are different from polygons. So we don't want to see them while we're animating. So we can go to this show menu and we can hide and unhide it with this option here. We have the shortcut also because it's constantly used. But like you always have to hide and unhide it. So it just makes it difficult. So what we do is we take all our controllers, put it in a layer, and we turn this P off. Okay, so it's off right now. And if I hit play, you can see the bottle is not visible. If I stop it, you can see it's visible. So I'm playing it again, not visible. If I stop it, it's visible. So as I said, we put the controllers in a separate layer and we leave out the actual object. Okay. So this allows us to hide the controllers while we're doing a playback of the animation. So don't worry about this option. Unless you learn animation, you will not be using this. So you don't have to worry about it. But not many people know how this works. So I just explained that. Okay. By the way, I'll just show you how we actually animate in Maya. Let me take a sphere. So I have a sphere and you can see we have some values here. Okay. Let's consider this as a point A. So now I'll move forward a few frames and I will move the sphere over here. I want the sphere to travel from point A to point B. If I hit play right now, you can see nothing happened. Why? Because we didn't ask Maya to log the values. If we don't log the values, Maya cannot remember, it cannot understand that animation is required. Okay, so what I'll do here is I'll bring the sphere back and I will press S in the keyboard. Make sure to notice the channel box. I'm pressing S and you can see instantly the keys are like this color is red. These are known as keys. Okay, these are animation keys. We also have it in the timeline. You can see this red line. Okay, so now we have told Maya to log this value. So Maya will remember it. Now we'll go forward a few frames. Let's say I'm at 45th frame and I move the sphere over here and I press S again. Okay, so now I have key here again in the timeline also, time slider also, I have a red key. Now I'll go to the first frame and I'll hit play. 1 second actually. Uh, I have changed some animation settings. Okay, so now if I play it, you can see the sphere is moving. Okay, so this is how we animate. I'll delete the sphere. And now we're back to our bottle. I will split the viewport again. And this time we want to set the image plane layer as a reference. So I will click on it till I get the R button. And now you can see it's not selectable. Okay. And our object is normal, so we can actually select it. All right then. By the way, you can, like we don't want to see, excuse me. Yeah, so we don't want to see outliner all the time, right? So like when we're modeling, we want to maximize our space. So what you can do is if you just click on this, outliner will be hidden. And if you want it back, you can click on it again. It will be visible to you again. Okay. So I'm going to hide it. I don't want to see it right now so that I have maximum space. Okay. Let's start making our shape better. So I will take the multi-cut and you can see the shape is changing quite a bit. The most amount of change from this point is in this area. In this area. So I will press Control and add an edge loop here. Okay. Now you don't have to go to vertices and select it like this. You can go to edges, select one edge, shift, double select on the second edge. This is how we add two selections. You can just normally double click also, but let's say you want some extra selections. In that case, you will be pressing shift. So as soon as you press shift on the keyboard, you can see, we see a little plus sign and you can see we can add to the selection. Okay. And let's say we want to remove this selection. How do we do that? We press control. When we press control, we see a minus sign and we can click on these and now you can see they are deselected. So shift to add, control to deselect. Okay. Now this is actually a loop, so we can double click on it and it will select it for us when we're in the edge component. But when we're in vertices, let's go to vertex. And if I double click on it, you will see everything gets selected. You might expect it to work just like an edge, but it doesn't do that. Why? Because vertices only exist at intersection points. Okay. Edges are just connected together properly, but vertices exist only on intersection points. So we cannot double click and expect it to be fully selected. So what we do is, you can see I have selected one vertex. I will shift, double click on the second one, and you can see I have the selection. Let me repeat that. I will select one vertex, shift, double click, and you can see we have the selection. Okay, so this is how we select vertices. And for edges, if it's a loop, you can just double click on it and you have the selection. Okay, so I will scale this down. Okay, so it is scaled. Now I'll go higher and you can see the shape is getting thicker over here again. So I'll take multi-cut and I will press control and drop another edge, double click on it and expand it. So here it's getting thicker. Then again, it's getting thinner at the top. Again, I'll take multi-cut, add an edge over here, double click, scale it down. Now we'll come back to the top, but we'll go bottom for a minute. You can see right now, this is going straight like this. That's not how it should be. You can see it is actually curved in our reference. So we want to curve this area. So I'll add an edge. Right now we don't have any edge in between. So how do we actually make that shape? So this is how we decide and increase edges. You can see the complex shape. If it is something straight, then it's not complex. If it's curvy, that means it is complex and it requires edges. So I'll take multi-cut and I'll drop an edge over here. Okay. And you can see I've added the edge, but it is still on the straight path. We want it to be scaled up and just follow this curve. So I will double click on it and scale it up. Now you can see it is following the shape. Still, it doesn't look smooth, right? Because it will not. We have very less resolution. To smooth it, we actually press 3. And you can see when I'm pressing 3, it is not maintaining this shape. Even though we added an edge here, and when I'm pressing 3, it's not at all maintaining that shape. Why? Because this edge was already there. This one I've added separately. But at the bottom, you can see we don't have any edge to support it. Whenever we want to maintain a shape, we always want to sandwich the edges. Sandwich, that means like you have an existing edge, you put one at the top, you put one at the bottom and create a sandwich. Okay, these are our supporting edges. So I will take multi-cut and we have a supporting edge at the top. We don't have one at the bottom. So I will press Control and add one here. Okay. And now if we press 3, you can see it's a little bit better, but still it's not maintaining the shape. Now, another reason is that we don't have enough resolution at the top, so it will not give you a perfect shape right now. But what we can do is we can double click on this edge and I'm going to press 3 and I will move it a bit closer. You can see when I move it closer, it actually starts to preserve that shape a little better. But you can see this edge has surpassed our base edge. So you have to understand how to actually work with it. If you press 3 and you move it, you will feel like you're moving correctly. But if you go to your base shape, you will see you're actually making a mistake. So what you can do is you can press 2 while doing this. So when we do that, we see our base shape and we also see our actual shape. Okay. You can see this was our first edge. This is our second one. We don't want to go over it. We want to keep it below. Okay. Uh, Sahil, you're asking, we press 3 to smooth in the model, but why we see in smooth? I don't understand your question. When you press 3, you want to see it smooth, right? So that's the whole point of it. When you press 3, you get smooth preview on. If you don't see it smooth, then what's the point of it? We don't have to press anything and we can keep working on it like this, right? We want to see the smooth preview. It is a preview. It's not actually making the model smooth. Now, this is very crucial to understand. When you're modeling something and if you have the smooth preview on and you take this object to a different software, because we can export objects and take it to different 3D softwares. So let's say you decide to take it to Blender, it will not look like this. It will look like this. We want to make sure that our base mesh has enough resolution. Okay, you're asking why we see in smooth, because it's important to see it in smooth, right? If I don't turn that on, I don't know how the final output would look like. A bottle is not supposed to look like this, right? You can see how hard the edges are. This is not how it should be. Now, the problem is if we want it to be smooth and if we didn't have smooth preview on, we would actually use this smooth operation. If I add that, you can see it increases the amount of resolution. Now, if when we increase the resolution, it becomes difficult to control it because we have so many edges now. So we cannot control the shape properly. We'll have to take care of lots of things in order to make it work. That's why we have smooth preview, which allows us to look into the future basically. Because once you've completed the whole model, you will apply the smooth option here. Okay, only then your mesh will look proper. Only then your mesh will be ready to be exported into different softwares. Okay, so that's why it's important to press 3 so that it gives you a preview of the future, how your model would look like in the end. Okay, okay. Dhritman, yes, if you press 3 and render it, it will look smooth only. That's the best thing about Maya. Like if you're completely rendering in Maya, you don't have to increase the resolution. You can just press 3 and have a very smooth render. Okay. But of course, if you want to render it in a different software, then you have to apply this smooth option in order to increase the resolution and then export it. Okay. All right. So we'll come back to this once we fix the top area and also the bottom. You can see the bottom is completely rounding this whole thing. That's not how it should be, right? So when I'm pressing 3, it's completely pushing everything down and hence it's not maintaining the shape we want it to. So we will definitely come down and add edges here, but let's go higher right now. So you can see again the shape at the top changes, right? So we need to add edges here. I will press Control and add an edge and I will add another edge. So I've added 2 edges here. Now you might be thinking, why have I added 2 edges? That's because that's how the shape of the bottle is. Let me show you what I will do. I will go to the edges and this first one, the top one, I will scale up. So now you can see we're getting a similar shape to our actual model. Okay. This should be slightly lower actually. So I'm just pushing it down and push this down as well. So now we're trying to like get that shape. Let's move forward. Now you can see at the top, uh, the thickness is changing again. So I'll add one edge here, double click on it and scale that down. I've scaled it down, but you can see this middle part should actually be bulging out, right? You can see how it is. So I will add another edge in the center, which will allow me to scale it up. And now you can see the shape is now rounded. This is what we want. Now let's have a look here. You can see it is white over here and it gets thinner at the top. So you can see how the shape is changing. Right now in our model, it is going completely straight. So this is not what we want. We want it to follow that shape. So I'll take multi-cut tool, add an edge here and slightly scale that up. Take multi-cut tool again and add an edge at the top over here and scale it like this. So you can see we're getting a puffy kind of a shape and this is exactly what we want. So you can see very roughly our bottle has started to look like the reference. It's not perfect yet, but it has started to look like the reference. We need to add more details. Yeah, so actually let's come down and take care of the bottom part as well. So first of all, what we need to do is, uh, as we press 3, it is completely collapsing everything. We don't want that. So we need to add a support edge. If you remember, this is what we did with the cubes. Whenever we wanted to maintain its shape, we added a support edge to help it maintain the shape. So that's what I'll do. I will press Control and add the edge. And now if I press 3, you can see the shape is looking a bit better. It's not perfect yet, but it's better. Now, if I hide the bottle here, you can see the shape, like it is round at the bottom and straight, like round over here and straight at the bottom. So we want this kind of a shape. How do we get that? First of all, I will go to vertices, select all of them and slightly pull it up. I'm doing this so that we can create that straight area at the bottom. Okay. So I just slightly pulled everything up. Now I will add an edge here through multicut. You can see I'm adding it very close to this outer edge. Why? Because in our reference, you can see this straight area which is coming out is very close to that area. Okay. So I will press Control and add it here. Okay. So I've added it there. But now if we press C, the shape is looking better, but it's not getting pulled down, right? It should be pulling down a little bit in order for it to be accurate. So we'll be using a different tool now. So this tool is known as extrude. Let me show this to you in a simple object. So I have a cube here. Let me add edges. Okay, so I have added just random edges. And what I want is this area should be going straight high. Like it is completely flat right now. I want it to be pulled upwards. Okay. So how do I do that? So we have a tool known as extrude. Okay. So if we go to edit mesh, we can see this option here, extrude. The shortcut is Control plus E. So this is something you will be using a lot. So it's important to remember it. But in the beginning, you can definitely go to edit mesh and choose the option here. Okay. Otherwise, you remember this shortcut, Control plus E. Okay. So I will be using the shortcut. So I'll press Control plus E. As soon as it did that, you can see something happened. We have this option here and something is here. And this manipulator looks weird. It looks different. Now, if I click on this arrow and if I start pulling it up, you can see suddenly I have a surface. This is being pulled up and I have a new surface here. So this is basically what extrude does. Okay, it allows us to pull surfaces out cleanly. Okay, if I didn't do that, and let's say I didn't have this extrude option. Okay, I'll press W, and if I try to pull it out, you can see I'll get this kind of a shape. Now it's important to understand that I don't want to disrupt this area, but I want to pull this middle part up. How do I do that? The simple answer is extrude. So I'm going to press Control plus E and pull this up. You can also take it into different directions. And this manipulator basically has all the options. We saw the translation. You can see these little boxes. These are for scale. If you click on them, click on that, you can see the little blue box appears and you can click on it and scale it. You can also scale it in whatever axis you want. And we also have the rotation option. If you click on the outer circle, you get rotation options as well. Okay. So this is how the extrude works. Now there are more settings to look into, but we will see those tomorrow. Right now, I just want everyone to practice this. Okay. Yes, Jagdish, I understand you know Maya. We have already covered how to rotate, translate, and everything. I was just showing it how to do it in extrude. Okay, so the other little options that showed up when we clicked on extrude, we will cover that tomorrow so that nobody gets confused. Right now, you just have to understand that extrude can be used to pull surfaces out. Okay, so I can like select this edge here, press Control plus E and pull it out. Okay. So you can see we've built a complex shape, a bit of complex shape by extruding. So now we'll come to the bottom. Let me split the viewport. And over here, we'll go to faces and we'll double click. Okay. And I have this selected. Now I also want this selection. Now there is a problem. Yesterday I told you guys that multicut doesn't work when you try to add a surface here. An edge here, sorry, not surface, an edge. Like if I press control and try to add it here, here it will work. But in this area it will not work because everything is connected to a vertex. Same thing applies in edge loop selection. Like I was able to select this whole thing because this is in a proper loop. We have an edge outer and inner sides. Like edges are there in the outer sides and inner sides. So I can press one, shift, double click on the second, and I have the full selection. I'll show this again. Press one face, shift, double click on the second one, and the whole loop will be selected. But if I try to do it over here, let's say I press shift, double click, you can see nothing happens. I'm pressing shift, double clicking, nothing is happening. Why? Because we just have a single outer edge. We don't have an inner edge. It is connected to a vertex. So it won't allow you to select it like that. So there are other ways you can use. Of course, you can manually select it by pressing shift and adding the selection, but that takes time. So we have other tools to help you with. So just go to the left corner here where we have all the move tools, selection tools. You see this third option. This is paint selection tool. Click on that. Okay. As soon as you click on that, you will see a brush will appear. Maybe your brush size might be smaller or larger. If you want to change the brush size, you can press B, left mouse button, and drag the mouse left and right. If I drag it towards the right, it scales up. If I move it towards the left, it scales down. Okay. So this is how we can change the size. Okay. Now I want to add to the selection. When you have paint selection tool, you don't have to press shift. Okay. Because naturally, by default, it only adds to the selection. So I can just draw over it and you can see I have the selection. Let me undo that. I'll undo all of these and we'll draw them again. Okay. Now I have the brush selected. I can simply add a stroke and now you can see everything is connected. Okay. I mean, not connected. I mean selected. Everything is selected. Okay. This is what we wanted. So this is how you can easily select areas which are not able to be selected quickly. Okay. All right. So we have done this. Now what we have to do? We'll use extrude to pull the surface out. Okay. So I will press Control plus E and pull this out. Okay. In the bottle, you can see it is slightly converging inwards. So this needs to be scaled down. So I will just press R and scale it down. So you can see it is going inwards. So this is what we want. So we've got this kind of a shape. Okay. Now, if I press 3, you will see it's not at all maintaining the shape. Why? Because there are no support edges. We need to add support edges here. So yeah, we'll be doing this tomorrow. Okay. For today, we'll keep it till here. Try to make this much. Tomorrow we will be introduced to a new tool, this bevel one. Okay. So I'll show it to you simply and then we will see how to apply it. Also, we'll cover rest of the extrude options that show up in the little panel when you click on extrude. Okay. So yes, let's keep it till here. Is everything clear till here? Does anybody have any confusion? I took it really slowly so that it's understandable. But if you have confusion, just type in the chat box. Okay, Dritaban, it's clear to you. Anyone else having any issues understanding this? Okay, Edwin, clear to you as well. All right, then looks like it's clear to everyone. So I hope you guys will practice And you can practice and show your work to me. So like whenever you're practicing, you can click a picture through your phone, or you can create a screenshot. Okay. So for screenshot, of course, you just have to press Windows plus print screen to take a screenshot. You can also use the snipping tool that we have. Okay. Okay, Pankaj, I'll explain the layers again. It's very simple, actually. I think maybe you joined late. No problem. Let's see it again. Okay, so let's hide all of this. I'll create a new object. Okay, so I have a new object. Ignore these two layers. Okay, let me stop the recording.